Leading with an Intelligent Heart explores the science and wisdom of the effective decision making to improve one's quality of life. We have often heard, follow your heart, feel from your heart, think from the core. This session brings forth the how of it. Taking us through this session is Mr. Prashanth Vasu. Prashanth Vasu has been a practitioner of heartfulness meditation for the last 24 years and a trainer for 7 years. In his professional life, he serves as a partner with McKinsey Company, where he has spent over 17 years across sectors and topics including organizational transformation and leadership development. He has an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering from IIT Madras, a master's in industrial engineering from Texas A&M University, and an MBA from Indian School of Business, where he was part of the founding batch. His other interests include tennis and music, and he lives with his wife and daughter in Chennai. Welcome, Mr. Prashanth Vasu. It is such a delight to have you here. Over to you.
Thank you, Akshata. It's fantastic to see all of you mobilize such a large event. When I was requested to participate in this, I did not realize that this was such a mega event. And it does. So dear friends, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening from whichever part of the world that you're joining. It's a joy to be with all of you, and we applaud your interest, your initiative, and your intent to be part of this program. What is our intention for this session? As I understand, over the last couple of days, the first day was really about self-awareness. The second was about transformation. And today is about launchpad. And specifically, the topic that we're taking is around leading with the intelligent heart around decision making. This session is meant to be interactive and experiential. In fact, we are going to conclude with some meditation. I have an admission and a confession to make before we get started. The admission is that I'm no expert on this topic, and I don't intend to use a nice 2x2 framework that you might expect from a consultant for this. And the confession that I have to make is that this is the first time I'm speaking without seeing an audience. So I don't even know who I'm talking to. And therefore, even before I get started on this, I would love to know who I'm speaking to. And I'm going to request Samarth or the organizing team to put up the mentee questions. Okay. I'm delighted to see the mentee coming up because it tells me that, yes, I'm speaking to somebody at least. And the Wi-Fi network is working. Fantastic. So Samarth can, or whoever is managing this, can we request you to put up the questions? Am I audible? Okay. Which city are you in today? One word, please. Bangalore is winning the race. Trivandrum is getting over. Trichy. Hyderabad. I'm joining from Chennai, and I see Chennai is severely underrepresented. There's somebody from Auckland, which is wonderful. Hyderabad is winning the race by miles. Kota, it's lovely. Bikaner, Coimbatore, Jabalpur. Wow. Moradabad, Ahmedabad. Chennai is gaining prominence. That's nice. But Hyderabad still wins. Bangalore, Dublin, Manila, east of India. That's wonderful. Trying to see some of the. Somebody has said Kanha. That's so wonderful that you call Kanha a city itself. That's fantastic. Dehradun. You're meeting Rustin Bond today. Let me know. Guntur. Okay. Kanpur, Vizag. Okay. Nice. We'll wait for another 30 seconds and then we will go to the next question. So it's Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai has finally caught up. Mumbai, Indore. I was happy to see Auckland, Manila. I'm sure there's Guntur, Delhi, wonderful folks. So we're also hitting 380 participants. So I know that there is somebody on the other end as well. Singapore, that's fantastic. Good. Should we move to this next question? So thank you, everybody. Okay, let's understand what age group do you represent? Okay. 36% is okay. The 20 to 25, you must be in college. Oh. It's a close pursuit from those who might be in school transitioning to college between 16 and 20. Akshata, you all are able to see the results as well. I hope the audience can see the results
Yes.
also.
Yes.
Okay, good. Wonderful. Okay. Keep going. Wow. So the majority of perhaps college going are just joining, might have just joined work or be doing their higher studies, I presume. We have a couple of people above 30 as well. Okay. Interesting. I can make another confession that I'm 47. If there's anybody around that age, just send a message to Akshata and she can keep me informed. We'll have a separate chat. Okay, good. So I guess out of the 400 participants, about 60% is somewhere between 16 and 25. Okay, good. So we thank the Heartfulness Institute for arranging this, and we'd love to understand what is your exposure to heartfulness. So regular practitioner, early practitioner, first time. Okay. Recently been introduced. Wonderful. First time, 21 people. So out of about 340 people so far, there are over 400 participants, I guess. Okay. It's very encouraging to see. So for all of you who are regular practitioners, welcome once again. It's so lovely to meet all of you again. And for those of you who are first timers, it's fantastic. Welcome to Heartfulness, and it's a joy and privilege to welcome you. And the rest of you who've been recently introduced and early practitioners, welcome to you all too. Thanks for taking the time and interest. Do we have one? Okay, good. That's the next question. How are you feeling and using time in this lockdown? So you have 4 choices. You're actually enjoying and using time well. Second is you're enjoying, but not using time well. Third is you're not enjoying, although I'm using time well. You might be working very hard, but you're not enjoying what you're doing. And the fourth is I'm neither enjoying nor using my time well. I wish I could run away somewhere. Please vote honestly. We don't know who's saying what. So that's the beauty of Menti. Is that right, Akshata? We don't know who's saying what, right?
No, we wouldn't know that.
Yeah, so you can be honest if not open. So that's your opportunity. You can be open if not open and honest. Okay, so close to half the people are enjoying and using time well. So I presume you'd almost want this lockdown to continue for a while. Another 360 out of 440 people are for sure enjoying. Some are using their time well, most are, and some are not using their time well. But there is about 10% of the population that's neither enjoying nor using your time well. Okay. I hope these 3 days give you a little bit of a booster dose to refresh and reorient your time. It's wonderful. We can go to the next question, which I suppose is the last one. Yeah. So here is the question. You might have read this poem in your school years. Which poet wrote this? 2 roads diverged in a wood. I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. If you remember the poem, you can also send the name to Akshayata, and we'll add that to the campaign thing that you did last time. And those who sent the right name might get an extra. Okay, 250 people say Robert Frost. Shakespeare gets the second with only 50 though. What a huge gap. If there are some people, so if some people are catching up on poor Shakespeare, he must be feeling very disappointed, I suppose. We'll wait for 30 seconds. Yes, there's an overwhelming 75% of the participants actually say Robert Frost, and I think what we have to give it to Robert Frost. It was indeed Robert Frost, and the name of the poem, and if my English literature teacher was around, she'd be surprised I even remembered, because I wasn't one of her favorite students for sure, but the name of the poem is The Road Not Taken. Anyway, it was wonderful to just get to know that, first of all, there are participants on the other side, and your profile a little bit. There are 10% of new practice, close to about 30% of people who have been more recently exposed to heartfulness, and somewhere in this, late school, early college, early work age group. And majority of you are actually enjoying your time during this lockdown, which is very, very nice to know. And I hope all of you have seen the inspiration from Daji about using this time to our advantage. Good. So we'll pick up from the last question, which is about really two roads diverging from a wood, which is really the topic of this this discussion around decision making. And this last verse of the poem, I think it is the last couple of lines of the poem, points to the vitality of decision making. And we are all confronted with decisions at different points in our life. In fact, perhaps we can say that who we are and what really matters to us is often expressed by the decisions that we end up taking at crucial junctures in life. The question really is, how do we make high quality decisions that we can later look back to and feel grateful and grateful for and satisfied about? That's the real question to answer. Now, there is a major neuroscience and a heart science to this topic, but I am not going to go in that direction. I'm not, because it's not, at least for me, that was not the way I ended up making my decisions. I'm going to hinge this on my own limited, what little I've learned from my personal experience in my own life story about decisions. And I'll share them with you, some of which might resonate with you, some that actually I learned for the better, and some were learnings the hard way. So let me begin with my own story. I'm the only child to my parents, and they have and continue being a very, very special part of my life. And they're people who have given me the best, their best, very best in their life, a very special life. In fact, my fondest memories of childhood are around playing table tennis, carom, and chess with my father. As soon as he returned from work, I would just catch him for the next 1 hour and play games with him in series, in sequence. And the second fond memory that I have is of my mother and I traveling to play tennis. Our house was about 9 kilometers from the tennis stadium. I was training tennis at that point. So we used to first take an auto and then a bus and reach. And she would stay there all the time. She was a school teacher at that point. And while I was playing, she'd actually be correcting books. And my father would come at the end of the lesson and we'd all come back home. So that's actually my fondest memories of my childhood. And their attention and affection has stayed with me right through life, even as I was telling you, I'm around 47 now, and that continues unto this day. So from very early on, without their ever asking me or without their ever telling me anything, I wanted to be with and for them in their pushes, in their advancing years. Really, my story about around decisions is about the choices I made to enable that to happen at different junctures, what I would call crucial junctures in life. I will specifically take up 4 vocations and how I made those decisions. Um, After my undergraduate from the IITs, like many other students, I proceeded as I left. I wanted to make sure that I came back before I get caught, if you will, caught in the US and overstayed my visit there. And a year or so after completing my master's and working for about 7, 8 months in my first job there, I chose to uncharacteristically, under uncommon situations, come back to India. I made a decision on a Monday, I remember, and came back on a Saturday. And many of my friends asked me whether I was actually crazy and how did I make the decision so soon. But I did make that decision, and I felt at that time that if I stayed too long there, I might actually, not make it back in time. And I found many other people in their late 40s um, struggling for not being able to come back to their motherland. So that was one decision that I made, and I came back. And I remember my father telling me when I came back, he saw my ticket and said, "Prashant, keep this ticket with you. I still have it with me. It's a Lufthansa ticket." He says, "Keep this ticket with you. Many, many years later, you will look back at this and feel happy that you actually came back." So here I was back in India. So that was decision number one. I came back essentially to be with them because I was worried that if I overstayed, I might not make that decision later. Decision number two is, as soon as I came back, now I had to proceed with a job in India, and I got an opportunity to work in Bombay and in Chennai. And interestingly enough, um, the opportunity in Bombay from a compensation standpoint was 2.5 times the compensation in Chennai. And I was wondering, what am I supposed to do now? And I asked my father, what should I do? And very interestingly, he told me, "Why have you come back? What is the reason you came back?" And I told him I just came back to be with the two of you. And he said, "Okay. And in which case, where is the confusion?" And it was so simple. And when I showed him the comparative compensations, he said, "The question you should ask your first job is not what you will get, but what can you contribute? What difference can you make?" And I still remember that advice. He just told that to me in one line, and that's it. I called that afternoon. I called the company is in Chennai. It was Sanmar. It was one of the most delightful 4 years that I had to launch my professional life in Chennai, um, being with parents as well. So that was the second decision. The third decision, many years later, after spending about 4 years in Sanmar and a year to do my MBA at the Indian School of Business, um, I was fortunate to get an offer from McKinsey, which I took up. And at that point in time, we started our career. I was married by then in 2000, and 2001 to 2 was the ISB, and joined McKinsey in 2002. Our daughter was also born by then, and we had to move to Bombay, after which we moved to Delhi. And there was an opportunity to, as part of McKinsey's mobility program, for me to go to the UK. And I spent a year there. Now, things were actually going very well there, a year and a half almost. And had I continued there, my professional life would have actually worked out very, very well. We were also having a reasonably good time as a family, and we enjoyed life there, although my wife and daughter struggled with the London winter. But by and large, it was a nice experience. But at that time too, something within me told me that it's best to go back now, back to Chennai and back. And we had been married, lived in 4 cities or something like that. And my wife also felt that I think we've lived the vagabond's life now for too long. Why don't we go back and settle in a place? So at that time, I actually, contrary to what a successful professional path might have been, I took a different path and came back to India and straight to Chennai, at which time McKinsey did not even exist in Chennai. That was the choice that I made. And from then on began my life with McKinsey's Chennai practice that has now been there for since 2008, so for the last 11 years. Now, clock forward 8 years, okay? Clock forward 8 years. I was still in McKinsey by then. By then, I'd been elected partner of this special occasion. And 4 years into that, in 2016, on the 14th of March, I had an important board meeting for one of our very, very dear clients whom I'd served by then for about 5 years. And on that day, previous day, my father took seriously unwell, and there was the possibility of his contract of his having cancer. So that particular morning, I had to forsake the board meeting and go with him. My entire family was there. Mother was there, wife was there, daughter had gone to school. We all went to the hospital to get him checked and get him admitted. Within 15 days, it was he was diagnosed with stage 4, and within 15 days, so on 14th of March, we went to the hospital. On 30th of March, he was no more. He was no more. And I remember that morning, 4:30 a.m. I had a difficult night of sleep for the first time in those 15 days. And I woke up at 4 a.m. and went to check if he was all right. And I remember the doctors being quite circumspect about his possibility of survival. So at 4:30, with my hand at his feet, I started meditating. Um, and I opened it was a beautiful meditation. I think I was lost for about 35 minutes. And I opened my eyes were moist for some strange reason. And the attenders and the doctor came in and said, I think we have come to the end. And was the case. At that point in time, I remember writing to the present guide of Heartfulness, my dear guide, Daji Shri Kamlesh Patel, and within 5 minutes, I got an answer from him. Literally within 5 minutes. I don't know how come and why he was awake at that point in time. But within 5 minutes, I got a reply saying that, this is a beautiful end. I almost don't even feel like offering condolences because it's so special, and there is only love. Now I was left reflecting on how special it was to be there in those times, in those final days. And I was wondering, had I not made these, I'm pretending as if I made the choices, but for a second, let's assume that. Had I not made the earlier choices, 3 choices to be back at the right time with my parents, I don't think I would have had the privilege of that experience with him. And I think for me at least, not saying it is true for everybody, for me at least, I think I would have dearly suffered the guilt of not being with him in his final days, which could have been a serious risk had I made choices that didn't. So I was very grateful and thankful that somehow, even if circumstances were unusual, decisions were difficult, at junction points, at crucial points, something in life actually pushed me towards making these decisions. Soon after his passing away, the 4th decision was, at that time, Amma was alone. And therefore, I made a choice to change my professional track and steer away from, until then I was traveling extensively at McKinsey, which is inherently a profession that involves travel. And I changed to be a lot more in Chennai. That would allow me time with my mother and also with my daughter then, who was entering 11th standard for 2 crucial years. And that again proved to be wonderful. It has allowed me so much in these last 4 years, not only to be with family, but also participate so intensely in heartfulness related work. So these are 4 decisions at different junction points that I have personally taken. The question is, why am I telling you this and what have I learned from it? I've learned one important thing, one very, very important thing that's I keep reminding myself of, and which is more applicable to me. I'm not suggesting it might be applicable to everybody, which is take a decision from the heart based on what matters to me the most at that particular point in time. What matters to me the most at that particular point in time. And what I have found is the following, that all the other things, they miraculously fall in place So it is not that when I took a decision that was based on what matters to me the most, anything else got compromised. My professional life continued, my personal life continued, my material life was as much intact as it would have otherwise been. In fact, it was each time enriched by a decision that I took, maybe with some other priority in mind, but what mattered to me the most at that point in time. And taking the decision based on my heart and what mattered to me the most, I have found is far, far more helpful. And I've found a lot of comfort and satisfaction in that. And certainly not, at least for me, taking decisions based on over analysis, putting pros and cons, although I might use such frameworks in the profession of consulting, but for personal major life decisions, I've not employed that methodology, nor based on wishes, but really based on what the longing of the heart is. And certainly not by looking at others, certainly not by looking at what my friends are doing, or I love my friends, I love all my colleagues, but I've typically found that when at junction points in life, it's better to go inside and take the decision from my locus of my center than anything else. There's one other thing that I've learned. So this is the first thing that I've learned. And the second thing that I have not spoken about in this whole process of decision making that I've been very fortunate and grateful to experience is the divine hand of life that has immensely supported me in the process of decision making, or anything for that matter. And this support has actually come to me through three personifications. The first is, of course, like I mentioned to you, my parents. The second is the teachers and mentors that I've had in different fields of life, whether it be in my tennis playing days, whether it be in when I learned music. In my undergraduate years, I had teachers whom I was very fond of and took a keen interest in me, whether it be at my workplace at McKinsey. I have very, very dear mentors who have a genuine interest in me and who have a wisdom that they share with me and point me to in the right times in terms of decisions. So that's the second personification. And the third, most vital, and for me, has been my two spiritual guides in the Heartfulness tradition who have been very dear to me and who have supported me extensively. The first being Chariji, the third guide of Heartfulness, and the second is Daji Sri Kamlesh Patel, whose picture you might see in the background, the present guide of Heartfulness. And at big decisions of life, whenever I took whatever those four decisions I spoke to all of us about, I've actually referred to them. Before going to the UK, I checked whether it's a good thing to go. Before I came back, I remember I wrote to Chariji and asked him, is this a good time to come back? I feel like coming back. I remember after Appa's passing away, I asked Daji, is this a good time to just be more based in Chennai? And I kept referring to them just to verify if my heart, first I would resolve what I needed in my heart, but then I would refer to them just to verify if the direction my heart was pointing to was in the right direction. And I'm grateful that almost all times it has actually worked out that what my heart was telling me to do was endorsed by what my guides thought was the right thing for me. But there was an occasion where I remember Daji pointing me in a different direction. I once asked him after, I think, Appa's passing or before that, whether, I felt like I was done with my material life and whether I should just spend all my time in spiritual life. And he actually very sweetly pointed to me and said, no, this is not the time to do that. He said, integrate. Don't think of your life as material life and spiritual life as two separate things, but integrate them as one life. And over the past 4 or 5, I should say 5 years, he has himself taught me what that means progressively. I know I have a long way to go. But what role have these guides and mentors played for me, particularly on the side, is that, a set of people who have our greater interest at heart, who know and who know what is the best for us in an uncanny way, and who would also like the best for us. That is number one. And number two, for me, they've actually represented ideals in life. They've represented reference standards, and I found it extraordinarily comforting to. So those are the two big things that I've learned. Number one, take a decision from the heart based on what is most important to me at that point in time. Everything else will fall in place. Don't worry about the world outside. That's not relevant. Uh, that's the first thing I remind myself. And the second thing is have mentors in life, and especially if we are blessed and truly blessed to have a spiritual guide with whom we can associate. Nothing like it. So that's really all I have to share from my side on decision making. I'm going to take a pause for 30 seconds and then return the attention. I have one more story to share with you about what Daji recently said, a very inspiring thing. But before I do that, I'm going to take 30 seconds of pause and slowly shift to you to reflect on what are big decisions you might be confronted with and how do you currently take decisions in life. So let's pause for 30 seconds, Akshayata, and then I'll call for you, and we'll switch gears to the participants,
Sure.
whom I hope remain. Okay, shall we switch gears, Akshayata?
Sure, sure. So we do have quite a few questions.
Oh no, I was going to actually put out a poll. We'll come back to the questions a little later. I was going to request participants. We'll come back to the questions. Certainly we'll come back. We have time. We're on time, in fact. So can we go back to Menti? We'll come back to your questions, hopefully. Okay, so here's the first question. I'm going to a little bit, no problem, Akshita. Let's turn the lens back to yourselves. And if you can ask yourself, what are some of the big decisions at this point in my life? In fact, take the biggest decision that's confronting you. Has it to do with career? Has it to do with relationships? Family, others? No big decisions. I just chill. Okay. We have 3 people who say no big decisions. You didn't even need to attend this session. What a happy life you have. Why do you have no decisions? Somebody else has made them for you, or career is the majority? 40 have to do with relationships, but out of the two, largely to do with career. Okay. Okay. That's a better representation, in fact. Wow. 12 out of the 356, whoever you are, can you just send me your names and email? I'd love to talk to you. You have no decisions, you just chill. About 15% have questions on relationships, about 65% on career. Okay, very interesting. Nice. Okay, big questions on career. We'll come back to them. Okay, Akshata, can we go to the second question? So these are the big decisions, largely career at this point in time, understandably. Majority of you are between 20 and 25, 16 and 20. You may want to don't know which path to pick. Okay, how effective am I in taking decisions? What do you think? Somewhat effective. I'm 60% success and satisfaction. Very effective, 80% success satisfaction. Somewhat ineffective. Okay. So the somewhat effective is gaining prominence. I hope the 14 people who don't have to take any decisions or haven't responded to this question, or just call yourself very effective. 80% success satisfaction. Okay. 200 out of 400 feel that they are somewhat effective. 60% plus, 60% was an arbitrary number. I just did something that's more than 50%. Good, very effective, 80% success rate. We should understand from you all, those who feel very satisfied with your decisions and experience quite a lot of success, why? And we'll come back to that in a minute. Somewhat ineffective. Yeah, there's about 20 to 25, somewhere between 20 and 25% who feel they're somewhat ineffective. Okay. And there is about 8%. Okay. Thank you. That's nice. Good. Should we go to the second question? Third question? Okay. How do you make your decisions? I first refer to what? Do I go to my heart and feel what is the right decision? And please do say what you currently do, not what you would like to do. How do you currently make decisions? Go to my head and analyze different options with pros and cons. Okay. See what others have done and base it on that. Ask my elders, mentors, or ask my friends. So the first vote is, interestingly, and the majority are practitioners of heartfulness. So it's nice to see that we are actually using our heart. You didn't need this session, honestly. Go to my heart and feel what is the right decision. Okay. And there are people who still go to the head, almost an equal split. Can you make that percentages again, Samarth, or one of you? Kaushik, is that you? Okay. Okay, almost equal between head and heart. They shouldn't be in contradiction when we take decisions that are satisfied with, but that's nice. Good, I'm glad 20% actually go to elders, they go to mentors. I hope that represents the younger population. Good. Okay, so that's the third question. And was there a fourth before coming back or not yet? Yes. What, in one word, describe what typically prevents you from making satisfactory decisions? Fear of failure, fear. Yeah. Yeah. Overthinking, confusion, fear, my God. What a debilitating thing fear is. Doubt, yes. Expectations, of course. What do we have on the side? Uncertainty, yes. Uncertainty, you should see about what parents prevent you from taking satisfactory decisions. Oh boy. Oh boy. It's a pity. Self-doubt. I hope your parents want the best for you. Failure, fear of failure. So fear is the biggest. Procrastination, yes, of course. Self-confidence, yes. Lack of confidence, yes, 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 which is doubt and so forth. Good. So let's pause here. Let's pause here. I'm going to share with you one story and then request you to do some reflective exercise. Recently, we were in at Kanha Shantivanam, which is a beautiful heartfulness center of over 1,300 acre property, acres, a green campus, as the largest meditation hall in the world. We were there for a program on what is called heartful communication. And before that program, we wanted to conduct an interview of Daji to get his inspirations on what he wanted participants to take away and how he wanted them to approach the program. So towards the end of the interview, we asked him, there were about 25 participants or so, so we asked him, how would you like us to use the next 3 days? How do we make the most out of this opportunity? And what he thought for about 30 seconds in his in his characteristic way, he went into a pause and then came out and said the following. He said, start with your aspiration, with what you might call your version final. What is the final version of yourself that you would really like to see? What is the final version of yourself that you would really like to see? Start there and make a prayerful sankalpa, a resolution that you would like to see yourself there, and then start the program. Almost suggesting that it's when decisions are grounded in the end state, um, that's when um, they actually come out the most effective. That's really what he asked us to do. I remember before the program, as we were getting into the program. So the first exercise that we did in the program is to spend some time in introspection to ask ourselves, what is the version final of myself that I would really like to see? And that's what we're going to ask you to do for the next about 5-7 minutes. And before that, so that you can little bit formulate your version final, I'm going to request that you ground it in what matters the most to you at this point in life. Okay? We're going to ask you to define your version final in 2 years from now, 1 or 2 years from now. And before that, I'm going to request that Samarth pulls up the Menti, and just hold on before you respond to the Menti. Let me read that question. And the question follows Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you will. And the question is about, at this point in your life, what matters the most to you? Remember, when I shared my story, while it was very important for me to be with my parents at different points and crucial times of life, it was not that at other times I didn't leave to go to other ventures and come back. Right? So at all points in life, the same thing may not be as important as something else. As students, different things matter to us now versus when we are an adult of, say, about 45 years or so. Different things could matter to us. So what I invite you to first do is, let's first ground the version final in what matters to me the most at this point in time. And Samarth, can you pull up that question? Let me first frame the question, and then we'll ask people to vote. You can put it up ready for voting, but I'll request participants to just hold on for a minute before submitting your poll. Okay. I'm going to go through, nice, it's a nice way of representation. So what matters to you? What matters to me? Ask yourself the question, what matters to me at this time in my life the most? Okay, it could be safety, which is satisfying my physical and survival needs. It could be relationships, which is feeling protected and loved. It could mean self-esteem. It could mean transformation, which is letting go of my fears and becoming a better person. It could mean internal cohesion. If you're there at this age, it's remarkable. It means finding meaning in life, living life by a certain set of values. It could mean making a big difference, a positive difference to the world. It could mean selfless service. And eventually it could mean transcendence. So if you look at this, these are actually in some ways a hierarchy of needs, if you will. And it will be lovely to know where this group is. What matters to me the most at this time in my life? Take a next 1 to 2 year window. Interesting. Very interesting. What's going on, Samarth? Oops. Can you represent it differently? There's about 400 people who responded. Okay, nice. Okay. It's very interesting to see this. It's very interesting to see such a wide distribution. It's almost like a bell curve, I have to say. There's nothing right or wrong. I just want to emphasize that it's just about grounding your decisions on what matters to you the most, grounding your aspirations for life and what matters to you the most at this point in your life. I'm delighted to see transformation emerging as a big thing. I would have expected and it's nice to know this, I would have expected the balance to be a little bit more towards self-worth and self-esteem as you're trying to shape your careers and shape your, it's very nice to see transformation taking such a prominent place. It's equally heartening to see a lot of bars on the right-hand side beyond topic 4, which is around meaning and making a positive difference. Normally people get to it after a certain time, but it's very nice to, especially transcendence is very interesting. You must be a protege of Swami Vivekananda or one of the guides of Heartfulness. Interesting. Very nice to know. So I think we have about, out of 500 responses, about 35% on transformation, 20% on, and very interesting. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Now I'm going to request you to ponder on 2 things. If you could, since Akshayata nicely set it up with a paper and pencil, if you can kindly take your paper and pencil. Samarth is going to play some, or Kaushik, one of them is going to play some nice, hopefully if the music works, Santoor in the background. And I'm going to request you to just pen down your reflections and responses to 2 questions. Question number 1, what do I want to accomplish in the next 2 years for myself, my family, others? What do I want to accomplish? This has a tilt, a little bit of ambition in it. The second question is, what do I want to become in the next 2 years as a person? So that has the slant of what we would call aspiration. What I would want to become. One has to do with accomplishments in the outer world. One has to do with what I would like to become. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes of quiet time for yourself, after which we will go into meditation. So, Akshayata, do we have some music in the background? I can't hear it, but I presume the participants can.
You just check 1 moment.
Softer, softer. Thank you. You just write it for yourself. You don't need to paste it or post it or anything. Just write it for yourself. Complete it in the evening. another minute? Yeah, we can make it softer. We certainly can. In fact, pause the music. Someone, you can pause the music. Let people write quietly for another minute or so. Okay, I'm going to now just move us towards meditation and then take a few questions. As you start your meditation, just hold with you, what is the big decision that you want to take at this point in life? What is the big decision that you want to take at this point in life? And in Heartfulness, one of the techniques that we are taught is that you just seed that intention before the meditation sitting and allow the answer to emerge. That's one of the ways to refer to the heart in guiding our way. Okay. So for those of you who are attending this for the first time, Heartfulness meditation, I will go through a relaxation come meditation process. Relaxation is very simple. I'll just issue some simple instructions. You'll have to endure my unmelodious voice for a little bit more. And after that, for about 15 minutes, we will meditate. When I say please start meditation, you make a gentle suggestion that there is a source of light in the heart already present that is drawing your attention inwards, and simply rest your mind in the heart as if you're turning on a TV and watching it. And just chill out. When I say that's all, you can open your eyes. Please do this without any strain, without trying to see any light, or if thoughts emerge, please realize that they're not coming. These thoughts are not coming. They're actually leaving you. They're going. So just ignore them. And when you realize your mind has wandered, bring it back to the heart. All right? So for the next 15 to 20 minutes, we will relax and meditate. Please sit comfortably and close your eyes. Make your breath normal. Start with heartfulness relaxation. Please turn your attention to your toes. Wiggle your toes and feel them relax. Your toes are now completely relaxed. Relax your feet. Energy rising up from Mother Earth, relaxing the feet, the ankles, your lower legs, your knees, and your upper legs. Your entire legs are completely relaxed. Turn your attention to your hips and your abdomen. Relax your hips. Relax your abdomen. Your hips and abdomen are now completely relaxed. Relax your back, starting from the tailbone. Feel a healing energy rising up your back, relaxing your entire back. Feel this energy now relaxing your chest, your shoulders. Feel them melting away. Your upper arms, your elbows, and your lower arms, right through to your fingertips. Turn your attention now to your neck. Relax your neck. Relax your face. Every muscle in your face, cheeks, earlobes, forehead, top and back of your head. Scan your entire system from top to toe and feel your entire system completely relaxed. Now gently turn your attention to your heart. Make a gentle suggestion that there is a source of light or divine light in the heart already present. Drawing your attention inwards. Be unmindful of any thoughts that may arise. They are all arising to go. Totally relax and please start meditation. That's all. Please keep your eyes closed for another 30 seconds. Observe your condition, how you're feeling now. Now, the big decision that you are trying to take, when you open your eyes, just pen down what signal you got for the decision. As soon as you open your eyes, whatever signal you get now after the meditation, just note that down in your diary. That's all. When you open your eyes. Akshata, good. Good. I'm going to ground and ask for some questions. Huh? Just hello, friends. I hope you're all back, and I'd love to take some questions. Before I do that, just the three big messages. Number one is that if we think about our life itself, who we are and what matters to us is often expressed in the form of decisions that we end up taking. The vitality and criticality of decisions, number one. Number two is I wanted to say that our best decisions, at least for me, have been when uh, have been contributed by two things. Number one is decisions taken from the heart based on what matters to me the most at that particular point in time. And number two, the support and of mentors in life, the value of mentors in life, actively seeking out to them and verifying every now and then for big decisions of life as to whether our heart is pointing us in the right direction. I think that is number one, and message number two. And then message number three is therefore, how do we cultivate such a heart that can point us in the right direction? And that is where the role of meditation and the support of a guide of caliber comes in. And I really hope that Heartfulness provides the path for us on this front. So best wishes to all of you. I'm happy to take any questions.
So, Mr. Vasu,
I
first,
can't guarantee answers, but I'll try.
we've got so many questions. I'm going to see how we can prioritize some of them based on the popularity. The first one really is, how do we identify the heart's voice if there is a dissonance between the heart and the mind? And a related question to this that we've seen quite a few ask is, how will I know if the decision I am taking is coming from the heart or it is the mind manipulating us in some fashion?
Yeah. Like I said, it's not that I know the answer, but I'll tell you what I've tried. I'll tell you what inspiration Daji has shared and our guides of Heartfulness have shared. And the rest, I think we will learn in the process of our lives, each of us. At least in general, like in the few examples that I shared from my own life, when the decision is from the heart, I have generally found more comfort. I just feel more certain about it. and there is less of dialogue, constant dialogue happening. Yeah, I feel a pull. Uh, More practically, I feel a certain vibration that I can sense that yes, this is the path. That is the first thing that I would say. The second thing is, like I mentioned in my case, for big decisions of life, to verify whether my heart is pointing in the right direction. And that's, as I mature, I'm hoping that more and more of that will automatically happen, is to seek out mentors, in life, people whom we respect, whom we genuinely have an affection for, and in turn, whose love and affection we feel. They may not be total experts in the field of relevance to you, but if they have their interests, your interests at heart, they typically, I have found, they typically help unclutter and point in the right direction. But the first step is to go back to one's own heart. So this is at least my formula. One of the things that I've heard Daji say frequently, direction. It means it's unresolved. If you're not getting a clear go, wait. That's all I have. I'm sure the questions will reduce as people realize I don't have all the answers. So.
That's very helpful. So I think we have time for one more question. So I'm going to pick the next most popular one. We often vacillate between moments of self-belief and self-doubt. How do you overcome these moments of self-doubt?
How to overcome moments of self-doubt. Okay. Interesting question. I'm trying to figure out how I do that. I think it happens over time. And um, uh, sometimes we do make mistakes. And learning to, I have found the practice of journaling quite helpful. What we call in Heartfulness diary writing, quite helpful. I write down things that I feel good about, things that I actually feel not so good about. And in a practical way, I think I found um, resorting to heartfulness practices is the most potent way to build self-belief. And that happens when we go to trainers periodically and take sittings. I've been fortunate to have a very, very good set of trainers support me in the process, and I've done that now for about 24 years. I don't normally miss. To this day, I reach out periodically to my trainers and go for sittings. And over time, for example, I used to have lots of fear and doubt for reasons not even known to me. I wouldn't even know where they are coming from and why. Everything in the outside world would look uh, hunky dory and fantastic. Nobody would even suspect that this fellow could have any fear. But I used to have fear. Um, and I wondered why for the longest time. Now it has abated for quite substantially, I must say, reduced quite substantially. It happens over time. Resorting to heartfulness practices at the core of it is the most, I found, most potent way. But more practically, I found at the external level, I found also plunge into activity, do what is right, keep doing what is right. At moments of self-doubt, do what my value system points me to. And then I get confidence about myself. Not what my desire is pulling me towards, but do what what is the right thing to do in this time. I think the more and more I found I'm doing the right things that I don't feel embarrassed and ashamed about, then my confidence in myself goes up. I'll narrate you a small incident. Do we have a minute, Akshata?
Yes,
I know we are bursting at the seams. 1 minute? Okay. See, when I was in IIT, we used to have what is called extramural lectures where dignitaries were called in to speak to participants. And in one of those sessions, we had Sunil Gavaskar. And those were days in the 90s when he was a legend. And he was in the last stretch, if you might recall, of his glorious cricketing career. And the stadium was packed. They had a stadium of 1,000 people. And they asked him, what finally matters to you? And he said something very nice. He said, eventually, what matters to me is not whether I've succeeded, not succeeded, hit a century, not hit a century. The thing that matters to me is when I put my head in the pillow at night to sleep, do I know that I've given it my best? And honestly, no man or no woman can ask more of oneself than to give it one's best with the best of our intention that we know at that point in time. So I think with that self doubt over time and with heartfulness practices, I have found goes away or reduces.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prashant.